He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J. Loren Norris.
You know, there are certain laws about bystanders. You know, if you see something happening, you should get involved. If you, for an example, are involved in a car accident on the side of the road and you drive away from that accident, you can be held responsible for things that happened in that accident that you didn't help with. You can also be charged if you help somebody and then cause greater injury while helping them. There are certain laws in certain states that protect you from that, called Good Samaritan laws, meaning I tried to do a good thing, but while trying to do a good thing, I actually caused harm, and so sorry, but at least I tried to do a good thing. But these laws are all very confusing, but you know, there are laws about where you can park your car and where you can't park your car, and double parking and parking against the curb or the wrong direction or parking too far from the curb, or whether or not you have yard signs or whether or not you have weeds in your yard, whether or not you have cars on blocks in your yard. Yeah, I grew up redneck. There was a whole lot of that. But see, all of these laws, they have an origin, and all of those origins start in the same place. And well, that's what I want to talk about today on Leading Leaders.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I'm J. Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I don't know if you know this or not, but maybe you do. Well, I'm guessing if you're watching Leading Leaders, you've got a little bit of leadership in you, whether it's a leadership role you've been assigned to or at least a leadership curiosity. Maybe you're leader curious. And if you're leader curious, let me help you with one thing. You have to get involved as a leader in the things that matter. Now, there are going to be issues that are hot buttons that nobody really wants to talk about. They're like the hot potato game. You want to pass it off to somebody else to deal with it because nobody wants to deal with the two things that nobody can escape, death and taxes. Everyone is going to die and everyone is going to pay taxes in some way or another. I know you think the rich get away with not paying taxes. It's simply not true. They just pay taxes in a different way. It's a shell game of where their money goes and how they spend it and how they use it, but they end up paying the taxes. And some people who don't have as much money end up getting money back that they never split in, and so they get refunds where they didn't pay taxes, and again, it's another shell game. But see, if you don't understand that these rules and these laws, they come, from you. They come from you as leaders in the community. Oh, what do you mean a leader in the community? I'm not an elected official. No, but you decide who is. See, we're coming up in less than 90 days on another election cycle. It's something I believe that is great about these United States of America, that we have the option, we have the right, we have the authority to decide who governs us. We have the right, we have the option, we have the authority to decide who governs us. The challenge is a lot of people, they don't take their leadership roles seriously, and they don't apply themselves to understanding who these people who want to govern us really are. What is it that's really important to them? What is it that they intend to govern us with? What kind of rules and laws will they put in place? What do they find important? What are their thoughts on the parent-child relationship? What are their thoughts on education? What are their thoughts on speeding tickets, traffic zones, communication, zoning of houses versus businesses? If a business owner decided they wanted to open a landfill on the other side of your privacy fence, Will your local elected officials allow that to happen? Or are they going to say to them, no, you need to have that at least 5 miles away from a residential area, at least divided by a body of water or a main highway? That's a rule and a regulation that has some really good practical common sense to it. Now, so you may think, I just own a house. I don't have any say in any of that. No, you have the right to vote that elected official into office or not, to vote them out of office, or if you're bold enough and brave enough, run for the office and make those decisions with your community as you lead them. But see, here's the option that you don't have as a leader, and that is to ignore the election process altogether. Bad idea. No, if you're a leader and you're involved in your community, which by being a leader you are, because leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less, you already have people who look up to you. There are already people who are expecting your ideas to make good sense. There are already people who are expecting you to give them good advice and lead them in a good direction. That's what makes you a leader. You have influence in their life. Your opinion, your education, your insights, your knowledge, your wisdom, that's what makes you a leader. Now the question is, how will you apply that to what's going on around you? Well, maybe you say, well, I don't have any kids. Fine. But the people who you lead, they have kids. What's important to them? What's important to their kids? Is it education? Is it the bus route? Is it what's being taught in school? Is it the field trips that they're allowed to go on or not allowed to go on? Is it the places that they visit when they're on a field trip? Is it the things that they do when they're on a field trip? Those are the kinds of questions that you, as a leader, should be aware of. What kind of people are driving the buses? And see, these are not all local official kind of roles. That's not the mayor's job to decide who drives the bus. No, that goes back to the administration. And that goes back to the school board. And that goes back to the local people who vote in the school board. And then there's all kinds of little games that they play in there, shell games again, about, well, who's the principal and who's the superintendent and how many administrators do we need in the school? Most schools have more administrators than they have teachers. Did you know that? Also, the bulk of salaries that are paid out go more to administrators than they go to teachers. You think I'm crazy? I know. Look it up. Look it up. That's why teachers are having to ask parents to bring more school supplies than ever before. And yet the budget from our local, state, federal taxes going to education is at a higher and higher level because it's going into the administrative and the unions and not into the pockets of the teachers or in the supplies that the schools provide for the children they educate. Just look it up. I'm not crazy. Also, my mother retired from teaching, and I heard her complain about it for years. The reality, though, is that you as a leader, you have a say in those things. You have a say in those things by the influence that you wield, by the education that you provide, by the insights that you offer to the people that you influence. But you also have the ballot box. And that's really what I'm getting at today. It's real easy for people to step aside and say, I don't vote because my one vote doesn't really matter. It's not that big a deal. It doesn't really matter if I get involved or I don't get involved. Nobody really cares what my opinion is. Well, there may not be anybody else who cares what your opinion is, but if you care what your opinion is, then your vote is worthy of being cast. And if your vote is worthy of being cast because you care about your opinion, then your vote is worthy of being counted. And if your vote is worthy of being counted, then your opinion has the weight of the sway of an election behind it. The ability to determine what kind of society we will live in, what kind of government will govern us, what kind of political leaders will we refer to when we mention those who make major decisions on our life. Right? I know you don't realize this, or maybe you don't realize this, but everything from the cost of the cereal on the shelves at your local grocer to the cost of the fuel that you put in your tank or the battery that you put under your car, whichever it is, those are decisions that seem like they're being made strictly by politicians. Many of them are. But most of them are being made by policies of the politicians handed down through the administrators and into the CEOs of businesses. Now, don't mistake, though, there are a whole lot of decisions that are made by companies, by businesses, and they're pushed up by voting power, by political action committees, by manipulating the process, by swaying the opinion makers, by having policies rewritten that benefit company A and destroy company B. That's nothing new. That's not a political party, one side or the other, or a third party or a 15th party. No, that's human nature. But see, that's where you as a leader have to get involved in the issues that matter. You need to be aware of the issues that matter. You need to understand the people that you're voting for. Don't just vote one side or the other. Don't just vote because the name is popular. In politics, there's a whole thing called name ID. If people recognize your name, you have a better chance of winning. People think, well, if I've heard this name a lot, then that's probably a good thing. It's a strange association in the psychology of voters, but it's a very real one. If somebody has a name that sounds like a famous name, they have a better chance of winning, even if their policies are horrible, even if their voting record is terrible, even if their past life has been absolutely destructive and disastrous. If they have a good name ID, chances are they can win. And that's why they run TV ads. And that's why they talk negatively about their opponent. And that's why they say things that are many times untrue. But in the end, if you understand the issues that matter and get involved in the issues that matter, realizing that might be simply showing up for a school board meeting, it may be running for office as the local dog catcher or mayor or superintendent of schools. Some of these are appointed roles, some of these are elected roles, and sometimes they vary by state or county. If you don't know that one way or the other in your area, then you're missing out as a leader on the opportunity to lead in the community you live in, to serve in the community you live in, as a person of influence doing good things for the community you live in. If the community you live in isn't important enough for you to be aware of what issues are pertaining to them in the election cycle, what kind of leader are you? And I'm not going to tell you where I stand on some of these issues. If you haven't watched long enough to know what those are, then maybe you should go back and rewind and watch some of the older ones. If you think I'm not completely involved in what's going on, you should go back and watch some older episodes. If you think I'm clueless, you should go back and watch some other episodes. But if you think that I'm bent to a particular bias, a political party one way or the other, you should go back and watch some other episodes. And what you're going to find is that I have a very strong set of core values. I'm very absolute on what those core values are. And I know that when I vote, when I make my presence known, when I influence people, those core values drive me to make the decisions that I make. My encouragement to you is that you figure out what your core values are. Find out what's important to you. Find out where they line up with the issues of the day when it comes to politics. Get involved in those issues. Make your voice heard. Be someone who matters when the issues matter. That's your job as a leader. It's one of the assignments that you have as a leader, as a person of influence, is to influence other people. But part of the way that you influence other people is to get involved in the issues. I challenge you to get out there and do your homework. Who's running for school board in the areas that you have the right to vote? Who's running for local offices, city offices, county offices? Don't forget about the little people that get shoved at the bottom of the ballot in the city clerk's office or the county clerk's office. Remember, those administrators sometimes stay longer in office, longer in a position than the regular elected official like the sheriff or the mayor. And they have more power to wield by simply not hitting the enter button when your document is submitted, by losing it and putting it in a shredder and making you apply 15 times for something that has a deadline and, oops, sorry, you didn't meet the deadline because your paperwork never made it through. I'm telling you, it happens on a regular basis, but it's up to you to know what those issues are, know who those people are, know what they stand for, get involved in the issues that matter. And the most important way you can get involved in the issues that matter is to do your homework and then vote as an intelligent voter. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.